Planetside 2 is a one-of-a-kind, massively multiplayer online first-person shooter. It pits thousands of players in a persistent battle over several continents on a planet called Araxis. It is combined arms with air and ground vehicles joining the fray with infantry. Think of Battlefield with more players, a much larger map, sci-fi setting, and MMO social features. If this is the first you are hearing of it, you have wanted to play but have been on the fence, or you have taken a break, I am here to tell you why now is the best time to try Planetside 2. A massive update has just hit the Planetside 2 live servers. The biggest feature is the construction system. A summary would be that players use a new vehicle called an ant, which looks like a stag beetle, to mine a new crystal resource scattered across the continents called Cortium. This resource can be used to build base items, walls, turrets, silos to store the resources, and lots of modules which do things like heal nearby buildings. There is also something called a hive. This is what sets this building system apart from bare bones survival games. In Planetside 2, the winner is decided by victory points. These are earned by taking a large percentage of territory on a continent, reaching an enemy's safe zone, the warp gate, and now can be generated by these hives. Once one faction has 15 victory points, the continent becomes owned by that faction. They get a bonus, XP, and the continent becomes locked. Think of this as the endgame or victory scenario in Planetside 2. The hives have an efficiency on how fast they produce the victory points based on how many links from an enemy warp gate they are. So there's a risk and reward for building closer to the enemy, but in general, victory point generation is what means you cannot ignore or avoid these bases for too long. The construction system itself on live sees massive player sieges to destroy these bases and their victory point generators. With vehicles on both sides bombarding the ramparts, players scurrying in between structures trying to keep them repaired, until finally the attackers reach critical mass and pour in. Also, they are used as a stage between the fixed bases as an offensive or defensive point. It has opened a lot of possibilities and dynamic conflicts to the game. The most played continent, Indar, has also received a big revamp. If you've ever played Counter-Strike, this would be the D-Dust 2. Don't fret though, Indar is often conquered by one faction, so the other maps do get played when it is locked. In the update, a lot of small bases have been removed, and in general bases feel more appropriate for the huge player counts that fight over them. This was also a move to allow player bases to have space to breathe. Another massive update that improves the game is they've set limits on how many players of each faction can be in a continent. So if the highest population of players in a faction is 10% more than the lowest of the 3 factions, then there'll be a queue until the lowest faction receives more players. What this does, if you don't understand that, is balance the game like a team balancer. One of the biggest complaints was that one faction would simply overpopulate and dominate the fights. But now, at least the battles in game are largely even and are won by the tenacity of players in them. Obviously it is early days, but it looks to be an improvement to balance. There have also been a lot of quality of life improvements, including the crosshair glowing green if you look at an ally. With people wearing camos, this is important, especially as a new player getting your bearings. People also seem to be reporting better frame rates than before, or no change, which is surprising considering the new scale of the battles with so many players and the constructions added. Also in Planetside 2 there are platoons of 48 players, split into 4 squads of 12. In short, they set waypoints, will get you all coordinated to drop, and can put down a beacon that you can spawn on. Also, you'll be able to spawn on squad armoured personnel carriers, the Sundra, and dropships, the Galaxies. What has been added though is an indicator of how far away the squad is from you, so you know if they are in the same fight or not, and also an indicator as to how cohesive the squad is, meaning if they are following orders or not. This might not sound like a lot, but as a new player looking at screen, it will make it much easier to pick a good group of people to play with, and especially a group that is near to you. There are also a lot more updates that have been pushed through, and I've only covered everything bare bones. Also, if you haven't been following Planetside 2 for a while, it has been slowly improving over time with little updates, making things ever so slightly better. and it isn't the same game that got off to a very rocky start in 2012. However, what I am here to say is that it isn't just the update itself that makes it the perfect time to play Planetside 2. It is a time to play because the game is utter chaos at the moment, with continents having battles sprawling across to areas that have never been trodden on before. The ground is full of tanks engaging other tanks over player bases, and the skies are dark with fighters and dropships. Hundreds of infantry are charging across hills and fields into the D-Day-like pillboxes of the bases. This is Planetside 2, as it should be played. This chaos is the Planetside 2 I originally fell in love with in 2012. Also, there are veteran players that find themselves confused in bases they have never fought at before and are also caught up in the flurry. New tactics are being developed as time goes on, and now is the time it feels most new. If anything, just to see the spectacle is enough of a draw. You don't need to want to play the game, but as a pure experience, no other game touches this as a warfare simulator. Is it perfect? Hell no. It has some quirky mechanics and sacrifices to allow for these massive battles. To put it all in context though, we live in an age of early access where games release and stay in alpha forever. Battle passes, DLC and other add-ons you'd expect to come as part of the game you bought are missing. I'm looking at you, EA. In Planetside 2, the whole game is open for free. Planetside 2 may have microtransactions, but the weapons in the game are all side grades or are specialised for one particular situation. In fact, the default weapons are often the best just because they are jack of all trades. In the footage you see here, I am playing a relatively new player on an American server, with mostly default gear, and I really am not hindered. So, in short, Planetside 2 is a game that has been polished over the past few years, and is not a reflection of the mess it was at launch. Perhaps this isn't quite Planetside 2 2.0, but this might be the closest we're going to get. And it will always be a one-of-a-kind experience, and now is the time to play it if you have ever been tempted to try it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I know this has been very bare bones, and I have been very careful not to overcomplicate anything with too much of the mechanics, which are quite complicated. What do the veterans think? Have I not gone far enough, or have I gone too far? And is this something you might share with your non-Planetside 2 mates? If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you thought it was ants in your pants, dislike it. And as always, I'll be putting out more Planetside 2 tips, tricks and more, so subscribe to hop on for the ride. Until next time, everybody, Joshino.